Okay, we are beginning. So as we enter the month of Teves, we know that according to Sefer Yetzirah, every single month has a different attribute that applies to us on a very personal and very applicable way. So the Hebrew letter for the month of Teves is the letter Ayin. What does the word Ayin mean in Hebrew? The word Ayin means see, an eye that sees. Now, we all say, seeing is believing, but is that really true? Is really what you see, what you get? Because sometimes it actually is. And sometimes we take our own narrative and decide what it is we're really, really seeing. I'm going to give you a little personal example that I like sharing that happened a few weeks ago. I was just like really tired, really burnt out. I just needed a break. And I was leaving my house and I was walking down my block and I saw in the distance a neighbor, what looked like it was the father. It looked like he was loading his car with luggage, like to go on a trip. And I was like, oh my gosh, he is for sure like taking his family on this amazing trip. He's for sure got it catered. He's for sure taking care of his wife, of his kids. And she's going to have this amazing, relaxing weekend. And I'm walking down the block. And as I get closer, I see that in fact, he has his tallis bag over his shoulder and he's holding two massive bags of garbage and he's putting them in his garbage can, which was right behind his car. So from down the block, because of what I personally needed in my life, I fabricated this whole story based on something that I thought I was seeing. And it was just such a huge lesson for me we see, it says in Tanya, I think it's Tanya, that the eye sees what the heart wants. So often, things we see is really what we want or what we need in our own lives. Let's say you're on social media and you see this picture of a smiling, happy family where all the kids are clean and dressed and everyone just looks so picture perfect. You look at that picture, and if that's something that you are craving in your life, let's say you're having a hard time getting your kids to take a bath at night, and you look at what you're going to see are the things that you need in your life, that you think you're lacking in your life. And it's not just about seeing what you need, it's taking that step forward and figuring out how to get what it is that you need in a very real way. The letter Ayin. Every time a letter appears in the Torah for the very first time, it's a very significant meaning. And the very first time the letter Ayin appears in the Torah is the word al. And it's in the pasuk, B'choshech al pnei tehom. That means the darkness was on the surface of the depth of the deep. And it's literally Hashem is telling us, what you see is not what you get. There is always so much more to the story. And we shouldn't take our own personal narrative and decide what's going on from what we're seeing. A great connection is Hanukkah, the flames. When you look at a flame is always flickering. It's going back and forth, back and forth. If you want to take a picture of a flame, it will be that second. But a second afterwards, that flame is moving again. It's the same thing with things that we see on our daily basis. You see something, we don't know what's really happening beneath what we're seeing. Every single month has a chush. And the chush for the month of Teves is anger. What is anger? According to Sefer Yetzirah, it says that anger happens when we have this idea and this expectation of what our lives should look like, of what we think should be happening in our lives. And when these things don't happen, we get angry. And I'm not saying, you expect to go to the store and then you don't. I'm saying you have an idea of how your life should be. Let's say you send your kid to the store and you ask them to pick something up that's really important and they don't pick it up and they come back and you get angry. You're like, I asked you to get one thing and you couldn't get that one thing. Are you really angry at your child? Like, did your child, if you think about it, like what warrants that reaction? The kid didn't do what you expected them to do. the kid didn't do what they were supposed to do. If someone says something to you in a way that's not nice, it's not what you expect from them. It's not what you want from them. It's not what you expect in your own personal life. If you have a job that you don't like and you just get angry at the people around you, it's because it's not what you want. It's not what you're expecting to happen to you. So if we take a step back and you think about anger on a deeper level, when something funny happens, you laugh, you get it through your system and you move on. You don't laugh a whole day. You don't feel that feeling of like hysteria all day. Something happens, you laugh, even if it's for a while, and then you move forward. With anger, why can't we do that? Why can't something happen that makes us angry and then we move on? Why do we hold on to it? Why does it like consume us and like take us over? Why is there such a big difference? What is the difference over there? The narrative. When something funny happens, you see it happened. It happened in front of your eyes. You don't attach any of your personal stuff to it. You don't decide why it happened or how it happened. It happened and you take it in and you move on. When something happens that makes you angry, it's because you add your own narrative. Why is this happening? What is happening? How could they say that? How could they do that after all I've done, et cetera, et cetera? We take our stuff and we put it on there and we let it fester and we let it consume us. So Sefer Yetzirah is saying, when something happens that makes us angry, take a step back and think, how much of this stuff is mine that I'm putting into it? What is it bringing up for me? Why is it making me so upset? And take a minute to figure out why it's bringing up all these feelings and then work with it from there, as opposed to focusing on the other person and blaming and putting everything on the other person. Try figure out what it was that came up for you that made you feel this way. Every single month has a body part that is related to it. And the body part for the month of Teves is the liver, which in Hebrew is the kaved. What is the function of the liver? The liver takes all the blood from the stomach and the intestines, and it filters out all the toxins, and it sends the healthy blood into your body, the rest of your body, and it takes the toxins and gets rid of them. The Gemara actually says that the seat of anger is the liver. That's where the anger lives in the body. Also in Hebrew, the word kaved means heavy. When a person is having liver problems, interesting enough, the iron, that's where you see that you have liver problems, because you see it in the eyes, the iron. You should never know of it. If everyone could please mute their cameras. So the kaved, when we are filled with anger, we feel heavy. It's a heaviness. It consumes us entirely. How do we get rid of this heaviness? How do we do what a liver is supposed to do? Filter out the toxins by filtering out our narrative, by filtering out our story. Something happened and it happened. Yeah, no one's negating that it didn't happen. And you're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to have those feelings. Nowhere does it say that you shouldn't have feelings, but it shouldn't consume us entirely. It says that when someone's angry, it's like idol worship. Why so? Because we're saying, Hashem, you got this wrong. What are you doing? This is not supposed to happen. This is not part of my plan. This is not the way things should be going. And by doing that, we're pretty much saying, like, Hashem, you don't know what you're doing. And that is equated to idol worship, because you're just completely negating Hashem. That's not to say that when something happens that makes us angry, we should look up and say, everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for the best. That's not a very human way of going through life. But we're allowed to take a second, feel what we're feeling, try figure out where it's coming from, and then work forward from there. But the whole idea here is to filter out our story, our narrative of what we think is happening, what we think should be happening. The mazel for the month is the Capricorn, the Gedi. The goat. And usually people born in this month are leaning more towards the materialistic way of life. They like money, they like nice things. They're very homey, they like being home. Family is very important to them. When a Capricorn is out of balance, it could lead to someone who's a little too materialistic, and a person who's a little possessive and almost controlling. But when it's in balance, it's a really amazing sign for someone to be. They're very earthy, very grounded, very stable. And lastly, the season for the month of Teves is the winter. And during the month of Teves, there's 2 weeks in a row that Shabbos comes in at the exact same time. It doesn't go higher, it doesn't go lower. And it's almost as if time is standing still. And very often when something is stagnant, it's not good. It's not good when things aren't moving forward or even backwards. There always should be movement in our lives. But sometimes stagnancy is actually a good thing, because in this day and age, I mean, a person can't even take a walk without wearing AirPods. We have to be constantly listening to a podcast, listening to music, on the phone. There has to be constant chatter in our minds. We have no idea how to just sit and how to just be. We actually have no idea. We have to learn how to meditate. We have to learn how to sit in silence and actually be peaceful with our own thoughts. I mean, even going to sleep at night. I mean, nowadays people need music and a sound machine and earplugs and melatonin and who knows what, just to silence their minds. So this is a huge practice for all of us, every single one of us, to learn to be able to just sit in the quiet, even if it's for 1 minute a day, to be able to sit down on a chair, even if it's with a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and just close your eyes and just have no noise, just for a few minutes a day, just to kind of let your mind be. And we actually come up with a lot of thoughts and a lot of ideas when we allow that to happen. So in conclusion, just for the month of Teves, and there's just so much information on this, but we just wanted to keep it short, sweet, and to the point. It's really about refining ourselves, because when we refine ourselves, everything around us will be automatically refined. It's not about trying to change other people, our spouses, our siblings, our parents. When we change ourselves, every single thing around us will change. And that's really the whole goal of this entire book. So without further ado, I'll be handing over the mic to Rivky.
Hey, Danit, thank you so much. That was really beautiful. 1 second, I lost my thing here. Okay, so today is Hanukkah, Zeis Hanukkah. It is, compared to Yom Kippur, it is a extremely holy day and very powerful day. Last year, someone sent a message on the WhatsApp group that said that if you take a letter and you put it in the menorah on Zeis Hanukkah and ask for things that you want, and you really dive in and put tzedakah and really, really, really believe it, things will happen. So I wrote, you write it near the menorah. They say also to do it in a holy place. I feel like I went to 770 to do it. I can't remember exactly. And I wrote a whole letter. And this year, when Hanukkah came, I took out the paper. I could not believe, I don't even remember what I wrote. In the tiny corner, I had written, Shidduch v'chaim Moshka bas Nechama, who's my sister. She's 32, and she got engaged last week. So not all the things that I asked for came true, because that was not the right time. But I do want to encourage everyone to take a paper, say a kapitel tehillim, put some tzedakah, and just stick it into anywhere in the menorah and ask for something. And they're even saying, like, because today's the 8th day of Hanukkah, and 8th is Memayla Midar Chateva. So something big, and ask for everything you want, but even ask for things that you don't even think are possible. And Be'ez Hashem, we should just hear good news, and everybody should, everybody's tefillas should be answered. And today is Hanukkah, and I saw this beautiful clip how this man was saying that he was not religious at all, and his brother had just come home from college, and they decided to see the Miami Dolphins game, and they come to this ginormous stadium, and there's thousands and thousands of people, and at halftime they could not believe their eyes. A massive menorah comes out, and a Chabad rabbi stops and makes the bracha, and they were so like, oh my God, it's Hanukkah. Like, remember, like 100 years ago in our house, we did something. And they were just so proud. And he was saying that he went to public school in the 1970s and no one spoke about being Jewish. And he said it was such a stamp in time for him. It was such a memorable day. It was such a key part of his coming back to Yiddishkeit, just seeing that menorah and having that proud moment. And that's what the Rebbe tells us. The Rebbe says that we do not know our impact just by being who we are, making a Kiddush Hashem, being the Yidden that we are. Just, you think you go on Mifsayim and say, oh, are you Jewish? Are you Jewish? And everyone says, no. You come home, you say, that was cold, I'm tired, and that was a waste of time. No, whatever we do in our life is not a waste of time. We have to put in the effort. And the Rebbe says that parents and people should not underestimate their effort and the toil that they put into whatever they put into, because everything is accounted for. And the only thing we need in addition to effort is willpower, and the willpower to do whatever it is that we want, because we are strong, we are resilient, and whatever it is that we want to do, we can work hard to get to whatever place that we want to get to. The best way to find joy and peace in our life is to recognize that Hashem is running the world. And sometimes, you hit a dead end and you need to back up and try a new route. I recently I have a new job, and this new job has a new billing system, and I have a hard time processing billing systems. It's just not my thing. And it was giving me a lot of anxiety. I could not figure out the new system. Finally, I got it, but there was one piece that I couldn't get, and the billing was already due, and the secretary already left the office, and I was, and I kept hitting the button, and the billing was not going up. And then I'm like, wait, stop trying to figure everything out on your own. I said, Hashem, I'm going to stop trying. I'm going to daven and say my tehillim. I'm going to put money in the pushka, and I'm going to ask you to please help me. And that's what I did. And I truly believed salvation was going to come. I did not know how. So I davened, I said my tehillim, I, did all the things. I was sitting at the kitchen table. It's 4:00 in my house. And I have a P3 provider who comes to my house to work with my kids. And I get a knock on I have a door between my kitchen and my dining room. And she knocks. She's like, hi, Mrs. Levy. I'm like, yes. She's like, can you sign my billing? I'm like, sure. And I look at her, it was the first month she was there. I look at her, the phone and her billing system. And I said, oh my goodness, is your billing system that you use Dragon? She's like, yeah. I said, oh my God, me too. It's a brand new system for me. I do not know how do I upload and sign? She's like, oh, you just click. I'm like, and I just couldn't believe it. I said to her, I want to just tell you something. I said, I could not figure this out for hours. It was driving me crazy. I decided I was going to stop, say tehillim, give tzedakah, ask Hashem to help me. And in my own house, here you are waiting. You are my shliach. And it got done. So many times we just try to do things on our own. We have to remember every minute of every second of the day that Hashem is with us. We just have to reach out. And sometimes the person that's helping us is literally in the next room. But if we don't ask, we don't always get, someone had to make a very important phone call. And they asked me to guide them what to do, how to, and I was like, yeah, sure. And then they kept saying how nervous they are. And I said, 1 second, I don't understand. You think you're going on the phone alone? Absolutely not. You need to bring Hashem into this phone call. Say a kapitel tehillim. Ask Hashem to help you. Put $1 in the pushka, a quarter in the pushka, and then make the phone call. And remember, your intention is good and you're not alone. And then when we remember that, we remember that we are not alone and we don't have to be so nervous. And we have to also remember why we're in this world and what we're here for and what we're doing. Hanukkah, what did the Greeks want to do? The Greeks wanted to assimilate the Yidden and the Goyim and make everything one. And Hashem is like, no, no, we are not them. We have our Torah, we have what we do, and we want to keep that very separate. And the Rebbe is saying that sometimes we think it's the outside forces that are making the problems. No, no, no. The Rebbe says that actually sometimes it's inside forces, and we need to make sure that there's no erosion of our value system. Whatever is important to us, we need to make sure that we keep it and we keep it real and we keep to our value system and what's important to us, because it's so easy to just get influenced by the outside world. And the Rebbe says that we do not chase darkness with a broom. We bring in light. That's not how we get rid of darkness. Okay, let's just get rid of it, chase it away. You can't chase away darkness. The darkness is the darkness. Let's be honest. If there is something going on, there's a tragedy, there's a situation, there's a challenge, it's not going anywhere. But what we could do is add light. Like, you can't walk into a dark room and say, go away, dark, go away, dark. No, you need to bring a candle, bring in the happiness, bring in the joy, bring in Hashem, bring in whatever it is that we can do so that we can dispel the light. And the best way to bring light into our home, this is the year of Hakel, to make a Hakel whenever possible, to give tzedakah, to say Tayr Psukim, say a little Dvar Torah. You know, it's like a Hanukkah party. It's like so easy. Delicious donuts, latkes, presents, and everyone goes home. Chaval, what an opportunity. You have 20, 30 people there, and you give tzedakah, you say a little, some Tayr Psukim, and you're able to bring so much light into your home. And it says in Tanya that when we say Shema, we're saying, Hashem is one, Hashem is the only one. And when we believe that, and when we realize that Hashem is the only one, Hashem is running this world, and we are one with Hashem, we are actually able to leave our own Mitzrayim, because we're leaving our own galus, we're leaving our own challenges, anxieties, frustrations. Why? Because we're not alone anymore. We are with Hashem. And think about this concept. Last Friday night I was eating out, and it was beautiful. The table was set. Everybody was in the house. Okay, some kids were fighting. It wasn't perfect. It's never going to be perfect. But there was that Shabbos light, it was a Shabbos glow, and everything was just beautiful. And then the doorbell rang, and it's like startles people, like, the doorbell, it's Shabbos. And in walks in a UPS guy, and it's like, woo, like, you're enveloped in this Shabbos light, and then the bell rings, and then you see this UPS guy, and you're like, whoa, right? So it's like, that's what it feels like to be connected to Hashem. It's like we live with Shabbos, we live with this holiness, we live with this. Yes, the world is doing whatever it's doing, but at the end of the day, we're safe. I remember my kids were like, Ma, can't believe it, Trump didn't win, Biden, and he did this and he did that. I said, kids, let me tell you something. Yes, I don't know what happened. I don't know if people cheated. I don't know if it was rigged. One thing I know is, if it happened, that's what Hashem wanted. Imagine living and going through life with this frustration and anxiety and sadness that, oh my God, they did this and they did this and they did this. No, if it happened, that's what Hashem wants. It says in Chavis Avavis, if someone had an injury, it was willed by Hashem. Yes, maybe someone should not have drunk, drive, do all the things that people do. But if someone does something to a person, it was the will of Hashem. Did they need to be the shliach? They have to work that out with Hashem. But knowing that whatever happens is exactly the way Hashem wants is a certain peace of mind that we can live with, that will give us a lot of peace of mind. Like, even just living with Hashem, just living a life of peace is, we can do small little things in our life to just shut that out. The other day I had to call the dentist, and like, I'm already nervous to call the dentist on a good day. There should be relaxing meditations on the phone. No, instead it's like the news. And let me tell you what they said on the news in the 2 minutes I was on the call, okay, to make my anxiety even higher. Frigid temperatures coming ahead. warm up because you will be freezing. And then they start mentioning states, Maine, Utah, don't think you're going to be left out. And then the next thing on the news, woman who has stole 16 times is on the loose. Watch your bags, watch your doors. And it's like, I'm going to hang up and I'm going to call back in a few minutes when maybe the news gets a little bit more exciting because I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this, sitting on the phone, listening to this anxiety ridden pumping into my head. And we can live that life by choosing what we want to bring in and what we want to take out of our life. If something is giving you like too much frustration, obviously in life, we can't pick and choose what we want coming into our life, but some things we actually have the potential. So why do it? Why put it in our heads? In the Beis HaMikdash, the only oil they were allowed to use was the seal from the Kohen Gadol. The ones that were defiled, they were not allowed to use. So think about that. We want to live a pure life, a joyful life, a happy life. And if certain people or certain scenarios or certain places in our life is going to give us anxiety, don't do it. Don't do it. Not for you, not for anybody. And sometimes we're also not just scenarios that are causing us frustration, but sometimes it's in our own self and we're holding on to frustration and anger. Last week is Parshas Miketz. Like Yosef, Yosef Tzaddik was on the level of beyond, but we could take just a glimmer of that by he saw his brothers and he was not angry at them. And he was second to the king. He probably could have said, okay, first I'm going to stone you guys. Then I'm going to burn you guys. Then I'm going to have you guys thrown into the dungeon. He could have done whatever he wanted. And he said, this was the will of Hashem. So that is a super high level. And imagine we can get there. Wow, that would be, I give you all bracha. But even a small amount of saying, you know what, I'm going to let go of my anger towards this person. I'm going to let go of my grudges. I'm going to let go of my frustrations, my resentment. I'm going to choose to look at this person. I'm going to try to not judge that person, because holding on to anger, where does that take us? It doesn't give us the happy life that we want. And ultimately, we are people that are so strong and so resilient, and we don't even know our powers. The Rebbe compares people to a chess game. Okay. So here's the chess game. The bishop, the queen, the castle, the horse, they could jump around the board, move backwards, forwards, anything they want, right? Whatever they're able to do. Then you have the pawn. The pawn could just move one little step. One. But you know what's cool about the pawn? When it gets to the end of the board, it can become a queen. You take a simple pawn, has the potential to become a queen. And the Rebbe says that the other chess pieces, the bishop, the castle, the queen, they are like malachim. They could jump around, fly all over the place, but they can't become anything that they already are. Whatever they are, that's how they stay. We can move one step. And by the way, that also teaches us one step at a time. Okay, now I'm not angry anymore. Okay, really? Oh, that's great. Wonderful. It's a dream, but it's not always possible. One step and the potential that we have. So every person can go from a zero to a hero. You can do anything that you want to do, and you can have, that is the potential of a person. We can keep on growing and growing and growing. And it takes time. The other day I changed my password, right? And it's like, I was wondering why every single time I went to my phone, I kept on, the phone wasn't working. Why? Because I kept going to the old password. It took me 4 or 5 tries till I remembered. And then I realized it doesn't take a minute to change a habit. Think about, you change the place where you keep your cups. How many times, do an experiment in your house, change the place for the cups. How many times is it going to take you to, you're going to keep going to the old place, go back, old place, go back, right? Because subconsciously, that's what we do. Unless we consciously make a decision to remember where the cup is, or to remember to not judge, it's going to take time, over and over and over. It's like, oh, well, I'm trying so hard, it's not working. Don't give up. Don't give up. It's gonna happen. It just takes time and willpower and perseverance. And in any area that we work on, it grows. The other day, my daughter had a friend over, and let me tell you about this friend. She had the most stunning, long, strong nails I have ever seen. I couldn't control myself. I said to her, "Are those nails real?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "You put a lot of work into it." She goes, "Oh, you have no idea how much work I put into these nails." I said, "Can I teach you a little life lesson?" I said, "Your nails are a proof to you that whatever you water, whatever you focus on, whatever you put energy will grow." She's like, "Wow, yes, thank you." Because those nails, they don't just happen in a day. Check out these nails. Nothing doing, no effort, no energy. They're cracking. That's fine because I'm not putting that much effort into it. That's okay. But whatever you put what focus on, whatever you put energy on, whatever you work at day after day after day, they are going to grow. So when it comes to shalom bayis, which is peace, is the highest form of receiving blessings in your life. Shalom bayis is the highest form of peace. And yes, it's work, it's daily work every single day. I saw a great line. It said, it's not about finding the one, it's about being the one. And another really good shalom bayis tip is ask questions. Someone says something and you get triggered. Before you get triggered and get frustrated or shut down or whatever your thing is, ask a question. What did you mean? Well, I'm just curious, what did you mean by that? Oh, okay, now you just saved lots of time of being frustrated. So whether it's a shalom bayis or any area in your life, ask a question to really understand what's going on. And usually that will really help a lot. Another beautiful way to receive brachas in your life is through the mitzvah of taras mishpacha. When someone keeps the mitzvah of taras mishpacha as hard as they can, that is going to bring brachas and leave lasting impressions for generations and generations and your children and your children's children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. So by you keeping the mitzvah of taras mishpacha, you have the power to bring brachas, body and soul, to your children and all generations to come. Another beautiful way to have a happy home, the Rebbe says, a person should focus on the chinuch of their children 30 minutes a day. So sometimes you do things for your children and it just, nobody notices. And it's not that nobody notices, but you put so much effort into helping them and they don't even realize the love that you did for them. So for like, and it could be for a spouse, for anybody, right? So like the other day, my daughter got a beautiful white dress. And after the first time she wore it, it got a very bad stain. She's like, "Ma, can you help me with the stain?" I said, "Sure." When she went to school, someone told me, by the way, dishwashing soap takes out stains. So I took dish soap. I put it in my hand. I scrubbed my hand. Then I took the dress and I literally had to scratch with my nails, like hard work. And I scratched and scratched and scratched until it came off. And then I put it in the washing machine. And when it came out, it was beautiful and clean. And I thought to myself, I could just take it and put it in her closet. And great. I asked mommy to do it. She did it. Move on. No. I said, I want to show her how much I loved her and how much I cared about her, how much time and toil and effort I put into it. So I hung it in a random place that I would see it. And when she came home, I said, "Sweetie, do you see this dress? Remember you asked me to clean it? Let me tell you what I did." And I told her that I put soap and I scratched it and I scratched it and I scraped it. And then I washed it and then I hung it because I care about you and you are important to me. And if you ask me to do something, I'm going to work as hard as I can. Sometimes your spouse asks you to pick something up and there it is, appears in the closet. It's like, you can go the extra measure by saying, "By the way, it was really important to me. Today, when I was on the way home from work, I made sure to stop in and pick it up for you." It's that extra little measure of not like, "Oh, look how hard I worked." It's more of a, I care about you. You're important to me, as opposed to it just appears in the closet. And at the end of the day, and what it all comes out to, whether it's a marriage, whether it's a relationship with a spouse, with a child, with a parent, whatever it is, we want to ask Hashem to help us. And we don't want to do it alone. And the Rebbe writes in a letter that sometimes it's good. It's always good. We just can't see it. And here's a really good analogy. A man who walked in from nowhere land, I don't know, some planet, some place. And he walks into a hospital and he's never seen a hospital before. And he walks into the room where they have surgery and he sees these people with scalpels and there's a man and they're cutting him open. And he starts to scream, "Murderers, murderers. Look what they're doing to him. What are you doing? You're hurting him. He's bleeding." And somebody quietly walks over to the man and says, "Hi, sir. So let me explain to you what's going on. This is a hospital. They are doing surgery on this man. He was in terrible pain. So they're cutting him open and they're fixing whatever needs to be done. And when he's done, this man is going to be able to live a longer, happier life." The same with us. Sometimes a challenge falls in our life and we scream to Hashem, "Surgery!" No, we don't scream that. We scream, "Murderers, murderers, Hashem, look, help, help, help." Hashem is saying, "Sweetie, this is a middle of surgery. I know you don't understand. It looks so hard. It looks so difficult. It looks so painful. But I just want you to know this is good and this is going to be good for you." And it's hard to stomach that. And it's really, really difficult. But at the end of the day, we want to believe that sometimes we are able to see the good in our life. And sometimes it's very dark. And this is what Hanukkah is all about, bringing in light and seeing the small glimmers of light. And I just want to say one quick thing. Today, last Shabbos, Mrs. Frumi Shubov, Alav Shalom, passed away. She was a very, very, she said, I think she said almost the whole Tehillim every day, was involved in so many good things. And one small thing they said about her is that whenever she would post on her Tehillim group or wherever she would see someone, she would always give that extra smile, that extra, she didn't just post done one, she posted with a flower. She always went the extra mile. And so many people were coming forth and saying that thing about her. So if we could take away one small thing from her also of just going the extra, "Hello, how are you?" The extra text, "How are you feeling?" It can make the world a happier, better place. May we merit the coming of Mashiach today. Freilich Chanukah, everyone. Thank you.
And thank you everyone for coming. Should be a wonderful month up ahead, full of growth, self-refinement, all that good stuff. And we will let you know all about Chodesh Shvat when it comes up next week. So not next week, I'm sorry, next month. Okay, have a great month, everybody. Thank you for coming.